Stop scrolling. Before you spend another coin, you need to hear this. Someone just lost a small fortune at a gas station because a cashier unknowingly handed over what collectors believe was a hidden treasure. It looked like an ordinary Washington quarter, but it may have been worth thousands or even more. Do not spend this coin until you've watched this video. Check your pocket right now, because a silent fortune could be hiding in your spare change. Collectors are fighting for these coins, yet nobody talks about these coins until they make headlines at major auctions. Welcome to Hidden Coin Millions, where we uncover the incredible stories behind America's rarest and most valuable coins. Today, we're counting down the top 5 most valuable American Washington Quarter dollar lucky coins in the world. Every coin in this video becomes rarer and more valuable than the last, and each one has a story that could completely change the way you look at your own pocket change. Stay with me until the end, because the final coin will shock collectors. First up, imagine walking into a neighborhood convenience store with nothing more than a few dollars in your pocket. The cashier counts your change, slides a handful of coins across the counter, and one Washington quarter quietly lands in your palm. You glance at it for less than a second before almost dropping it into your pocket with the rest of your change. It looks completely ordinary, slightly worn from years of circulation, carrying the familiar portrait of George Washington that millions of Americans have seen their entire lives. But imagine if that ordinary-looking coin wasn't ordinary at all. Imagine if that single quarter became the center of an intense collector bidding war, eventually reaching an incredible $15,000 at auction. Stay with me, because this is the story of a mysterious 1991 Washington quarter that transformed from everyday pocket change into what many called a hidden treasure. Do not spend this coin until you've checked every Washington quarter in your pocket, because fortunes have a strange way of hiding in the places people least expect. The journey of this remarkable quarter begins in 1991 at the historic Philadelphia Mint, identified by the small P mint mark on the obverse. During that year, millions of Washington quarters were produced to keep up with the demand for everyday commerce across the United States. They traveled through grocery stores, vending machines, banks, restaurants, gas stations, and cash registers from coast to coast. Most of them were spent over and over again until they became worn beyond recognition. Others were scratched, damaged, or forgotten inside old drawers and family coin jars. That is exactly why stories like this continue to fascinate collectors. Hidden among millions of ordinary coins can sometimes be a single piece that captures extraordinary attention. In this cinematic story, one 1991 quarter survived in very fine condition, preserving enough detail to spark curiosity among experienced numismatists and begin a journey that nobody could have predicted. Take a close look at its design, because every detail tells part of the story. The obverse features the familiar right-facing portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Above the portrait appears the inscription, "Liberty," while the words, "In God We Trust," are placed to the left. The date 1991 is displayed below the portrait, accompanied by the small P mint mark, identifying Philadelphia as its place of origin. Turn the coin over, and you'll see the majestic American eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows and olive branches, symbolizing both strength and peace. Around the eagle appear the inscriptions United States of America, A Pluribus Unum, and Quarter Dollar. This classic reverse remained one of the most recognizable coin designs in American history before the introduction of the state quarters program years later. Although it carries an extraordinary story, the coin's physical specifications remain exactly what the United States Mint intended. The 1991 Washington quarter is composed of a copper core layered with copper nickel, giving it durability for circulation. It weighs approximately 5.67 grams, measures 24.26 millimeters in diameter, has a thickness of about 1.75 millimeters, and features a distinctive reeded edge with closely spaced grooves around the rim. Experienced collectors always examine these measurements because authenticity begins with careful observation. Even slight differences in weight, diameter, or edge characteristics can sometimes reveal unusual minting errors or alterations. Coins with natural surfaces and attractive original toning are often preferred because they preserve the appearance created when the coin first left the mint decades ago. One feature that immediately caught collectors' attention in this story was its honest, very fine condition. Unlike polished examples that have lost their originality, this quarter displayed natural circulation wear while retaining strong design details. Experienced collectors know that originality often matters more than artificial shine. That's why they repeatedly warn beginners never to clean old coins. Cleaning can create tiny scratches, remove natural toning, and permanently reduce collector appeal. What looks like an improvement to an inexperienced owner can become a costly mistake. Every serious collector studies the portrait, lettering, mint mark, eagle, edge, and surface texture before deciding whether a coin deserves closer examination. Most people miss these tiny details, but those details can change everything. Now imagine yourself standing inside an elegant auction hall. The room is unusually quiet as the auctioneer carefully lifts this remarkable 1991 Washington quarter beneath bright lights. Dozens of collectors watch intently, studying every detail through magnifying glasses. The opening bid arrives almost instantly. Another paddle rises. Then another. The room grows tense as the price climbs higher and higher. What began as an ordinary quarter has suddenly become the focus of determined collectors, unwilling to let it slip away. The audience watches in disbelief as each new bid pushes the total beyond expectations. The atmosphere becomes electric. Every heartbeat feels louder than the last. Finally, after one dramatic pause, the auctioneer raises the hammer one final time. "Sold" echoes across the room as the mysterious 1991 Washington quarter reaches an astonishing $15,000, leaving everyone amazed that a simple 25-cent coin could inspire such fierce competition. Stories like this continue to fuel the passion of coin collectors around the world. Every year, millions of people unknowingly spend old quarters without ever checking the date, mint mark, or condition. Some disappear forever into vending machines or coin-counting kiosks, while others quietly wait inside forgotten jars for someone curious enough to take a closer look. Whether you're an experienced collector or someone who has never searched through pocket change before, the lesson remains the same. Never clean an old coin. Handle it carefully by the edges. Preserve its original surfaces. If something looks unusual or especially well preserved, consider having it professionally authenticated before rushing to sell. Sometimes the greatest hidden treasures aren't buried beneath the ground. They're already sitting in your pocket, waiting for the right person to recognize their story. Next up, the crowd at a busy weekend flea market was beginning to disappear when a young man purchased an old wooden jewelry box for just a few dollars. He expected to find old buttons or broken watches inside, but hidden beneath a false bottom was a tiny envelope filled with loose coins. Most were ordinary pocket change, but one Washington quarter immediately caught his eye. It carried a natural brown shade that made it look forgotten rather than valuable. Without another thought, He almost used it to buy a bottle of water on the way home. Imagine losing a hidden treasure like that forever. In this cinematic story, that ordinary-looking 1984D Washington quarter became the coin everyone wished they had noticed first. Before you spend another quarter, check your pocket right now, because some of the greatest fortunes are hiding in plain sight, disguised as everyday change. Do not spend this coin until you've looked at every detail. The story begins in 1984 at the historic Denver Mint, where millions of Washington quarters were produced to keep America's economy moving. Every day, those quarters flowed through banks, supermarkets, restaurants, gas stations, and vending machines across the country. The small D mint mark beneath the date identified each coin as a Denver issue, yet almost nobody paid attention to that tiny letter. Over the years, most of these quarters became scratched, damaged, or disappeared into coin-counting machines. Others sat quietly inside forgotten coin jars, inherited collections, and desk drawers for decades. In this cinematic story, one remarkable survivor remained in fine condition, preserving enough original detail to catch the attention of experienced collectors. What looked like a common quarter to the public slowly became the center of growing curiosity, because true treasures often hide behind the most ordinary appearances. Take a closer look at the design, because every detail tells part of its journey through history. The obverse features the familiar left-facing portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Above his head appears the bold inscription, "Liberty," while the national motto, "In God We Trust," is positioned beside the portrait. The date 1984 appears below, accompanied by the small D mint mark, confirming it was struck at the Denver Mint. Turn the coin over, and you'll find the majestic American eagle standing proudly with its wings fully spread, while holding arrows and olive branches, symbols of strength and peace. Surrounding the eagle are the inscriptions, "United States of America," "E Pluribus Unum," and $quarter. This timeless design served the nation for decades before the state quarters program introduced entirely new reverse designs, making classic Washington quarters instantly recognizable to collectors around the world. Although the story surrounding this quarter feels extraordinary, its physical specifications remain exactly as intended by the United States Mint. The 1984D Washington quarter was struck using a copper core clad with outer layers of copper nickel, giving it durability for everyday circulation. It weighs approximately 5.67 grams, measures 24.26 millimeters in diameter, has a thickness of about 1.75 millimeters, and features a sharply reeded edge. Experienced collectors always verify these specifications while examining a coin because authenticity begins with precision. The natural brown shade visible on this coin became one of its most intriguing features. Many beginners assume unusual color means damage, but experienced numismatists often recognize naturally aged surfaces as signs that a coin has never been aggressively cleaned or polished. Original surfaces preserve history, and history is exactly what collectors are searching for. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to make an old coin look brand new. Cleaning may seem harmless, but it can permanently destroy the delicate mint surface and leave microscopic scratches that immediately reduce collector interest. Serious collectors carefully inspect the mint mark, Washington's portrait, the eagle's feathers, lettering, strike quality, and overall originality before deciding whether a coin deserves professional grading. They understand that honest wear combined with untouched surfaces often tells a far more valuable story than an artificially polished appearance. Most people overlook these details every day, but experienced collectors know they can completely change a coin's future. Stay with me, because what happened next surprised everyone in the room. Now imagine stepping into an elegant auction hall filled with some of the world's most dedicated coin collectors. The room becomes completely silent as the auctioneer carefully lifts the mysterious 1984D Washington quarter beneath bright display lights. Every bidder studies the coin through magnifying glasses, admiring its preserved details and natural brown toning. The opening bid is announced. Almost instantly, another paddle rises. Then, another. The atmosphere grows more intense with every passing second as determined collectors compete for ownership. The numbers continue climbing far beyond what anyone expected for a simple quarter. Spectators exchange astonished looks as the bidding war refuses to slow down. Finally, after one dramatic pause, the auctioneer raises the hammer and calls for the final offer. The room holds its breath before the hammer falls. In this cinematic story, the mysterious 1984D Washington quarter reaches an incredible auction price of $15,500, proving that hidden treasures often spend decades unnoticed before revealing their extraordinary value. Stories like this remind us why millions of people have fallen in love with coin collecting. Every day, valuable discoveries are accidentally spent because someone failed to notice a date, a mint mark, an unusual surface, or an important detail. Whether you inherit an old collection, receive change from a cashier, or open a forgotten coin jar at home, always take a few extra seconds to examine every older quarter. Never clean an old coin. Hold it only by the edges, store it in a protective holder, and seek professional authentication before rushing to sell. Hidden fortunes don't always glitter, and sometimes the greatest treasure you'll ever discover is already resting quietly in your own pocket, waiting for the moment someone finally recognizes its story. Next up, a young coin collector was helping his grandfather clean out an old wooden desk that had been locked away for decades. Hidden inside one of the drawers was a small cloth pouch filled with loose change collected over a lifetime. Most of the coins looked ordinary until one Washington quarter slipped onto the table. It carried a deep black layer across much of its surface, making it appear old and almost forgotten. The grandfather smiled and said, "That one's probably too dirty to be worth anything." The quarter was nearly dropped into a spending pile, but imagine if that had happened. Sometimes the greatest hidden treasures are the ones people mistake for damaged coins. This is the cinematic story of a mysterious 1964D Washington quarter that surprised collectors and became the center of an unforgettable auction. Before you spend another old quarter, take a closer look, because history has a habit of hiding fortunes where nobody expects them. The story of this remarkable quarter begins in 1964, one of the most historic years in American coinage. The United States Mint was preparing for a major transition because rising silver prices were changing the future of circulating coins. The 1964D Washington quarter, struck at the Denver Mint, became part of the final year that regular Washington quarters were produced with 90% silver, making the date especially memorable among collectors. Millions entered circulation, passing through stores, banks, restaurants, and everyday transactions, but very few survived the following decades with attractive original surfaces. Many were heavily worn, melted for their silver content, cleaned by owners, or simply disappeared into forgotten collections. In this cinematic story, one original survivor remained in fine condition with a naturally developed black layer that reflected decades of careful aging rather than damage, making it stand out to experienced numismatists who appreciate untouched history. The design of the 1964 Washington quarter remains one of the most iconic in American history. On the obverse, George Washington faces left beneath the bold word Liberty, while the inspiring motto, "In God We Trust," appears beside the portrait. The date 1964 is displayed below, accompanied by the small D mint mark, identifying the Denver Mint as its place of origin. Turn the coin over, and the majestic American eagle spreads its wings proudly while gripping arrows and olive branches, symbolizing both strength and peace. Surrounding the eagle are the inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, and $quarter. This classic reverse design became a symbol of American coinage for generations, and because 1964 marked the end of the regular 90% silver quarter era, collectors often pay special attention to coins from this historic year. Although this quarter tells an extraordinary story, its physical characteristics are equally fascinating. Unlike modern clad quarters, the 1964 Washington quarter was struck using an alloy of 90% silver and 10% copper, giving it a bright silver appearance when new and making it highly desirable among collectors today. It weighs approximately 6.25 grams, measures 24.3 millimeters in diameter, has a thickness of about 1.75 millimeters, and features a sharply reeded edge. These specifications are among the first things collectors verify during examination because they help confirm authenticity. The natural black layer covering parts of the surface is often the result of decades of silver toning. Many beginners mistake this appearance for damage, but experienced collectors frequently recognize original toning as evidence that the coin has never been harshly cleaned. Original surfaces preserve history, while cleaning often removes it forever. One mistake continues to cost collectors thousands of dollars every year. The moment someone discovers an old silver coin with dark toning, they polish it until it shines like new. Unfortunately, that process can permanently destroy the original mint surface and dramatically reduce collector appeal. Professional numismatists prefer coins that display honest wear and authentic aging because those qualities cannot be recreated once they are lost. They carefully inspect Washington's portrait, the mint mark, lettering, eagle details, edge quality, and overall strike before deciding whether a coin deserves professional grading. Most people never notice these details, but serious collectors know they can completely change a coin's desirability. Stay with me, because what happened next shocked everyone watching. Picture yourself inside a prestigious auction room, where complete silence fills the air, as the auctioneer carefully presents the mysterious 1964 Washington quarter beneath brilliant lights. Every bidder studies the natural black toning, the preserved details, and the unmistakable beauty of its original silver surfaces. The opening bid is announced, and almost immediately another paddle rises. Then another. The room grows tense as determined collectors compete for ownership. The numbers continue climbing, surprising everyone in attendance. The auctioneer pauses dramatically after each new offer, allowing the excitement to build with every heartbeat. Finally, after one last intense moment, the hammer crashes down. The audience erupts as the final bid reaches an astonishing $17,500, proving that one forgotten silver quarter can become the center of an unforgettable collector battle and reminding everyone that hidden treasures still exist in places people overlook every day. The fascination with the 1964 Washington quarter continues because it represents the final chapter of America's regular 90% silver quarter era. Collectors know that every year more original examples disappear due to damage, cleaning, or neglect, making authentic survivors increasingly desirable. If you ever discover a 1964D quarter with natural toning or unusual eye appeal, never rush to clean it or spend it. Hold it carefully by the edges, store it in a protective holder, compare every detail, and consider professional authentication before making any decisions. Hidden fortunes are often disguised as ordinary pocket change, and sometimes the coin, resting quietly inside an old family collection, holds a story and perhaps a value that nobody ever imagined. Next up, a routine trip to this bank turned into an unforgettable mystery when a customer asked for a roll of quarters to use at a laundromat. As the paper wrapper was opened, dozens of ordinary-looking quarters spilled into his hand. Most were quickly set aside, but one coin seemed different. It wasn't shiny or flawless. Instead, it carried the quiet look of a coin that had survived decades of everyday life. The date read 1973, and there was no mint mark beside it. Without thinking, he almost dropped it into a vending machine. Imagine if he had. Hidden treasures rarely announce themselves, and fortunes are sometimes spent in seconds simply because nobody stops to look. This is the cinematic story of a mysterious 1973 Washington quarter with no mint mark, in very fine condition, that caught the attention of experienced collectors and became the center of an astonishing auction. Before you spend another quarter, check every coin in your pocket, because the next hidden treasure could already belong to you. The story begins in 1973 at the historic Philadelphia Mint, where Washington quarters were struck without a mint mark, just as Philadelphia issues traditionally were during that era. America was changing rapidly, and these quarters moved through every corner of the country, from grocery stores and restaurants to banks, bus stations, and family businesses. Millions entered circulation, yet most eventually disappeared through decades of wear, damage, or simple neglect. Others were forgotten inside jars, desk drawers, and inherited collections, waiting quietly for someone to rediscover them. In this cinematic story, one remarkable survivor remained in very fine condition, preserving sharp details and attractive originality. While most people would never notice the significance of a missing mint mark on a Philadelphia issue, experienced collectors understand that every detail deserves careful examination because extraordinary discoveries often begin with ordinary-looking coins. Take a closer look at the design, because every feature tells part of its history. The obverse displays the timeless portrait of George Washington, created by sculptor John Flanagan. Above his head appears the word Liberty, while the national motto, "In God We Trust," sits to the left. Beneath Washington's portrait is the date 1973, and unlike Denver or San Francisco issues, there is no mint mark, identifying the coin as a Philadelphia strike. Turn the coin over, and the majestic American eagle stands proudly with outstretched wings while holding arrows and olive branches, representing both strength and peace. Around the eagle appear the inscriptions, United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and $quarter. This iconic design remained one of America's most recognizable circulating coins for generations before the reverse designs changed with the state quarters program. Although this quarter carries an extraordinary story, its physical characteristics reflect the precision of United States mint production. It was struck using a copper core bonded between outer layers of copper nickel, giving it strength for decades of circulation. The coin weighs approximately 5.67 grams, measures 24.26 millimeters in diameter, has a thickness of around 1.75 millimeters, and features a finely reeded edge. Experienced collectors routinely verify these measurements because even the smallest difference can raise important questions about authenticity or unusual minting characteristics. They also study the strike quality, surface preservation, lettering, and overall eye appeal before reaching any conclusions. A naturally preserved coin with honest wear often attracts more attention than one that has been polished to appear artificially bright. One lesson every collector eventually learns is that originality is priceless. Too many valuable coins have lost much of their collector appeal because well-meaning owners cleaned them with cloths, chemicals, or household products. Those methods remove the original mint surface and leave microscopic scratches that can never be repaired. Serious numismatists prefer coins that display authentic aging because every mark tells part of the coin's journey through history. They carefully inspect Washington's portrait, the eagle's feathers, the rim, the reeded edge, and every letter before deciding whether professional grading is worthwhile. Most people never notice these tiny details, but experienced collectors know that hidden treasures often reveal themselves through the smallest differences. Now imagine entering an elegant auction room where silence fills the air, as the auctioneer carefully presents this mysterious 1973 Washington quarter with no mint mark beneath brilliant lights. Every collector studies the coin through magnifying glasses, admiring its originality and preserved details. The opening bid arrives immediately, followed by another and then another, as determined buyers compete for ownership. The atmosphere grows more intense with every passing moment. Spectators watch the numbers climb higher and higher, struggling to believe that a quarter once worth only 25 cents has become the center of an unforgettable bidding war. The auctioneer pauses dramatically before accepting the final offer. The room holds its breath. Then the hammer falls with one decisive strike. The final price reaches an astonishing $16,300, leaving everyone amazed that such an ordinary-looking coin could inspire extraordinary competition among collectors. Stories like this remind us why coin collecting remains one of the world's most exciting hobbies. Every day, thousands of Washington quarters disappear into cash registers, vending machines, and coin-counting machines without anyone checking the date, condition, or other important details. Some hidden treasures are lost forever simply because nobody took a second look. If you ever come across a 1973 Washington quarter with no mint mark, never clean it, never polish it, and never rush to sell it. Hold it carefully by the edges, store it in a protective holder, compare every detail, and seek professional authentication if something appears unusual. Sometimes the greatest fortune isn't buried underground. It is quietly waiting inside a forgotten coin jar, ready to surprise the person curious enough to look a little closer. Next up, it all comes down to this final coin, and its story begins with a moment that every collector dreams about. During the renovation of a century-old farmhouse, a rusted metal box was discovered beneath loose floorboards. Inside were faded letters, a few silver coins, and one dark-looking Washington quarter wrapped in fragile paper. At first glance, it didn't seem special. Its surface carried a rich black shade from decades of natural aging, and its worn appearance convinced everyone it was nothing more than an old quarter. Someone even suggested spending it at a nearby convenience store. Imagine losing a hidden treasure worth a fortune because it looked too ordinary to matter. That single coin turned out to be the legendary 1932 Washington quarter in fine condition, a coin that has fascinated collectors for generations. Before you spend another old silver quarter, remember this story. because the greatest treasures are often hiding in plain sight, quietly waiting for someone who recognizes their true importance. The remarkable history of the 1932 Washington Quarter begins during one of the most difficult periods in American history, the Great Depression. The Washington Quarter series was introduced in 1932 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, replacing the long-running Standing Liberty Quarter. While Philadelphia produced the largest number of quarters that year, the San Francisco Mint, identified by the small S mint mark, struck far fewer coins. That lower production made the 1932 one of the key dates of the entire Washington Quarter series. Many entered circulation during a time when every coin was desperately needed for everyday purchases, leaving very few untouched survivors. Countless examples disappeared through heavy use, accidental loss, melting, or improper cleaning. Decades later, collectors realized that finding an original 1932 in attractive condition had become increasingly difficult, turning this historic coin into one of the most sought-after Washington quarters ever produced. Take a closer look at its timeless design because every detail reflects American history. On the obverse, George Washington faces left beneath the bold inscription, Liberty. The inspiring national motto, In God We Trust, appears beside the portrait, while the date 1932 is displayed below with the tiny S mint mark, identifying the coin as a San Francisco issue. Turn the coin over, and you'll find the majestic American eagle standing proudly with wings spread wide, holding arrows and olive branches that symbolize both military strength and the desire for peace. The inscriptions, United States of America, E pluribus unum, and $quarter, surround the design, creating one of the most recognizable reverse designs in American numismatic history. Every letter, every feather, and every detail becomes important when collectors examine an authentic early Washington quarter. Unlike modern circulating quarters, the 1932 Washington Quarter was struck using 90% silver and 10% copper, giving it a rich metallic appearance and lasting historical appeal. It weighs approximately 6.25 grams, measures 24.3 millimeters in diameter, has a thickness of around 1.75 millimeters, and features a sharply reeded edge. Experienced collectors verify each of these specifications before considering authenticity. The natural black shade visible on many surviving silver coins is often the result of decades of careful aging and oxidation rather than damage. Beginners sometimes mistake this dark appearance for a flaw, but seasoned numismatists often appreciate original toning because it tells the story of a coin that has remained untouched for generations. Once that original surface is polished away, it can never be restored. That is why professional collectors repeatedly give the same warning: never clean an old coin. Cleaning may remove dirt, but it also removes history. Harsh polishing leaves microscopic scratches that immediately reduce collector appeal and can dramatically lower market value. Instead, experts carefully inspect the mint mark, Washington's portrait, the eagle's feathers, the lettering, rim details, strike quality, and original surfaces before metals continues to shrink while collector demand keeps growing year after year. What appears to be an ordinary old silver coin may actually represent one of the greatest hidden treasures in American coin collecting. Now picture yourself inside one of the world's most prestigious coin auctions. The room falls completely silent as the auctioneer gently places the mysterious 1932 Washington Quarter beneath brilliant display lights. Every collector in attendance immediately recognizes the importance of this historic key date coin. The opening bid arrives without hesitation. Another paddle rises across the room. Then another. The competition becomes fierce as determined bidders refuse to let the opportunity slip away. The atmosphere grows heavier with every new offer. Hearts race as the numbers climb far beyond what anyone would expect from a 25-cent coin. The auctioneer pauses dramatically before calling for the final bid. Every eye remains fixed on the stage. Then the hammer crashes down. In this cinematic story, the extraordinary 1,932 Washington quarter reaches an astonishing $20,000, proving once again that hidden treasures can spend decades unnoticed before finally revealing their incredible worth. As our countdown comes to an end, remember one important lesson. Hidden fortunes are still waiting to be discovered in old collections, inherited coin boxes, forgotten drawers, and even everyday pocket change. Before spending any older Washington quarter, especially one with an early date or unusual appearance, take a few extra moments to examine it carefully. Never clean it, always hold it by the edges, protect it in a proper holder, and consider professional grading before rushing to sell. If this story inspires you to search through your own coins, you may uncover a treasure that everyone else overlooked. And if this video saved just one valuable coin from being accidentally spent, subscribe to Hidden Coin Millions, because the next hidden fortune could already be waiting in your pocket, and the next discovery might be yours.